part of budgeting is our debtors and creditors schedule. We need to know when we can expect in the future our debtors to pay, and we need to know when we expect that we will pay our creditors. So the schedule of receipts from debtors, because debtors purchase from our business on credit and then pay us later. And then the schedule of payments to creditors, we purchase from the creditors or our suppliers on credit and pay them later. Exists as a budgeting tool so that a business can see when we can expect to receive money from the debtors or pay creditors in the future. This aids in our financial decision making, as we can include these estimates in our budgeted cash flow statement. The schedules are shown here below. So, first of all, we have our schedule of receipts from debtors. You can see that our columns on the left under this month, January, February, March, and then the credit sales amount including GST. So in January it was 15,000, February 23,000, March 22,000. These months over here run down these columns, and these amounts in these columns are going to tell us how much of these January sales are we collecting in February. Then how much of the February sales are we collecting in February, and how much of March sales are we collecting in February. Now at the bottom, we'll total that up. So, we'll be given a set of rules. In this case, we've got 80% of debtors will pay in the month after the sale, and 20% of debtors will pay in the second month after the sale. So, from our January sales, we're going to have 80% of debtors pay in the month after the sale. The month after January is February. So in our February bit here, we'll have 80% of 15,000. 20% of debtors pay in the second month. So, the second month after January, February, March is our second month. So that will be our other 20% of sales here. Our February sales, we're not going to collect any in February. Our rule states that 80% comes in the month after the sale and 20% in the second month after. So that means our February sales will collect 80% in March and 20% in April. With our March sales, we can't collect anything in February because February comes before March. If the credit sale happens in March, we can't collect the money any earlier than April, according to our rule. But because February and January come before March, we can't collect any money for the sale that hasn't happened. In March, we're not going to collect any of the March credit sales. We're only going to collect our 80% in April. The last 20% will be collected in May. But as our column doesn't, as we don't have a May column, we don't have to worry about that now. Creditors, schedule of payments to creditors works exactly the same way, but we look at our credit purchases this time because we're dealing with our creditors. So in January, our purchases were $15,000, February 23, March 22. So in February, how much of our January credit purchases are we going to repay to the creditor? Again, we're going to have a set of rules. So 40% of credit purchases are paid in the same month as the credit purchase. 60% will be paid in the month after the credit purchase. So 40% same month, 60% month after. So in January, we bought $15,000 worth. So if we had a January column, we would have had 40% in there. As we only start with a February column, we're just going to have 60%. From our February purchases, we're going to have 40% happen inside February. Because we've paid 100% all up within the month and the month after, there'll be nothing in March. So March will have 40% of its own sales. April will have nothing, as we don't have any information. Oh, that's not right. Damn it.